Navadasya param Navagoravaram Navapushpasaram Navabhavadaram Navadasya param Navahasya-karam Navahemavaram Pranamami Shachi-sutta-gauravaram Navahasya-karam Navahemavaram Pranamami Shachi-sutta-gauravaram 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 Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Bala Jayo Girivara Dhari Gopijana Bala Jayo Girivara Dhari Yashodananda Jayo Prajajan Ranjana Yashodananda Jayo Prajajan Ranjana Yashodananda Jayo Prajajan Ranjana Yeah. Jayo Punjabi Jayo Prajajan Ranjana Jai Radha Jai Radha Kunja Vihari
भाषा ठीक कह रही है, किस दौर में अभी हो? वर्षों के बाद
बिहारी गोपी जाना बाला चयो गिरी पर धारी गोपी जाना बाला चयो गिरी पर धारी जय प्रजन रंजन यशोदानंद जय प्रजन रंजन यशोदानंद जय प्रजन रंजन जय रंजन जमुना तीरा वन छोरी जय कुंज बिहारी जमुना तीरा वन छोरी जय कुंज बिहारी जय प्रजन रंजन जय राधा जय राधा कुंज बिहारी जय राधा कुंज बिहारी गोपी जाना बाला जयो गिरी पर धारी गोपी जाना बाला जयो गिरी पर धारी यशोदानंद जय प्रजन रंजन यशोदानंद जय प्रजन रंजन यशोदानंद जय प्रजन रंजन यशोदानंद जय प्रजन रंजन जमुना तीरा वन छोरी जय कुंज बिहारी यशोदानंद जय प्रजन रंजन जय राधा
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Padaya Vimati Bhakti Saraswati Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Samyavadi Achatyari Satari Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadara Srivasadi Gura Bhaktavrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadada Srivasadi Gura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Guru Deva, Jaya Guru. Mita Gaur Haribo, 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 Gura Haribo. So you are welcome today to this Bhagavatam, no, Bhakti Sastri session. from Bhagavad Gita chapter 4. Yesterday we went up to text 15, and in the text 15 we are advised to follow the way of the liberated souls, the way of those who are liberated in Krishna consciousness. So on the screen you see that in the purport to text 15. To retire from the activities of Krishna consciousness and to sit aloof, making a show of Krishna consciousness is less important than actually engaging in the field of activities for the sake of Krishna. So Arjuna is here advised to act in Krishna consciousness, following in the footsteps of the Lord's previous disciples, such as the sun god, Vivasvan, as mentioned here before. The Supreme Lord knows all his past activities as well as those of persons who acted in Krishna consciousness in the past. Therefore, he recommends the acts of the sun god who learned his art from the Lord some millions of years before. Also students of Lord Krishna are mentioned here as liberated persons engaged in the charge of duties allotted by Krishna. So Krishna is in essence telling Arjuna to follow the footsteps of the sun gods and other liberated souls. So this is where we are. So there, that in the next nine verses, in pursuance of Krishna's description of his own work, Krishna will explain how work, karma, can be seen as inactivity or akama. Arjuna previously said he wished to leave the battlefield and avoid the results of his karma, like a jnani, through inactivity. Krishna will show him that no karma accrues to one who works in transcendental knowledge, and that properly performed karma can thus be seen as non-different from the process of jnana. Properly performed karma is not different from the process of jnana. So that brings us to the next. Sorry, let me see. The next theme. Transcendental knowledge, topic 3, Karma Yoga, verses 16 to 24. Now we can read 16. Kim karma kim akarmeti kavayo api atra mohitaha tate kama prabhakshami yajnatva mokshya subat. Translation. Even the intelligent are bewildered in determining what is action and what is inaction. Now, as I explain to you what action is, knowing which you shall be liberated from all sins. So somebody's already purport.
Hare Krishna, we are in chapter what?
We are in chapter 4, text number 16.
4:16.
Yes.
The purport. 4:16 purport. Okay. Action in Krishna consciousness has to be executed in accord with the examples of previous bona fide devotees. This is recommended in the 5th verse. Why such actions should not be impediments will be explained in the next text to follow. To act in Krishna consciousness, one has to follow the leadership of authorized persons who are in the line of discipline succession as explained in the beginning of this chapter. The system of Krishna consciousness was first narrated to the sun god. The sun god explained it to his son Manu. Manu explained it to his son Ishraku. And the system is currently on his earth from what every remote time. Therefore, one has to follow in the footstep of previous authorities in light of disciple succession. Otherwise, even the most intelligent men will be bewildered regarding the standard action of Krishna consciousness. For this reason, the Lord decided to instruct Arjuna in Krishna consciousness directly. Because of the direct instruction of the Lord to Arjuna, anyone who follows in the footsteps of Arjuna is certainly not bewildered. It is said that one cannot ascertain the ways of religious simply by imperfect experimental knowledge. Actually, the principles of religion can only be laid down by the Lord himself. Dhammam tu Shaksha Bhagavat Pranitam, Bhagavad Gita 6:3-19. No one can manufacture religious principle by imperfect speculation. One must follow the footsteps of great authorities like Brahma, Shiva, Narada, Manu, the Kumaris, Kapara, Prahlad, Bhishma, Sukadev Goswami, Maharaj Janaka, and Bali Maharaj. By mental speculation, one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Therefore, out of the mercy of his devotee, the Lord explained directly to Arjuna what action is and what inaction is. Only action performed in Krishna consciousness can deliver a person from the entanglement of material existence. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki.
Oh, that is it. We need to know what is action, what is inaction. And Krishna is trying to train our eyes to see action in inaction and inaction in action. This is what Krishna is trying to train our eyes to see. Okay? Krishna is trying to train our eyes to be able to see action in inaction and inaction in action. See, and what does that mean? You see, one who sees no reaction in selfless work and reaction in forced renunciation is intelligent among men. That's another verse. But this is what it means. How do we see some activities appear to be action, but in actuality they are inaction, like the pure devotees. How they did the example of the Mahajans, 12 Mahajans are given here. All these 12 Mahajans, they acted perfectly, but all their actions are considered inaction. Yes, even though they were acting, their activities are seen as inaction. They were not acting because their activity did not produce sinful reaction. They were not on the platform of karma. They acted in knowledge. You see, whereas others are acting, but their activities only bring karma to them, sinful reactions to them. So that is actually inaction. They appear to be acting, but in actuality, they are not acting. Okay? So Krishna is trying to open our eyes to see this, how to act transcendentally, how to act in a way that your activities will not bring sinful reaction. And for that, we should follow the footsteps of the previous pure devotees who acted in that. And the lists are given, and these are the lists of the 12 Maharajas, 12 universal authorities. And there are many of them that we can even see now. But in the next verse, apart from karma and akarma, the Lord is going to add vikama also. Vikama are forbidden activities. Forbidden activities. What are these forbidden activities also? So which ones should we do? Should we give up karma? Who should give up karma? Who has the eligibility to give up karma? Because a kami cannot give up karma. Because if a kami give up karma, he will become like a foolish, lazy man. He has no adhikari to give up karma. Yes. But a jnani, one who has some knowledge about the implications of karma, can give up on karma. He has little eligibility. But a bhakta who knows that simple activities will produce sinful reactions, he can give up karma. He has the eligibility to give up karma because he has learned the science of applying everything in Krishna service. He has become a bhakta. So he can give up karma. But not one who has not yet become a bhakta. You see, so all that will be explained in the subsequent verses. So, yes. In the next verse, Krishna adds the principle of bhikarma or forbidding action to his presentation of karma and akarma. So let's read verse 17. Karmanoi api bodhavyam cha bhikarmana akarmana cha bodhavyam gahana karmano gatihi. The intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one wants to know properly what action is, what forbidden action is, and what inaction is. Purport. Someone should read the purport for us.
If one is serious about liberation from material bondage, one has to understand the distinctions between actions, inaction, and unauthorized actions. One has to apply oneself to such an analysis of action and reaction and pivot action because it is very difficult subject matter. To understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. Example, one has to learn it perfectly, knows that every living entity is an internal service of the Lord, and that consequently, one has to act in Krishna consciousness. The entire Bhagavad Gita is directed towards this conclusion. Any other conclusions against this consciousness and its attendant action are the karmas or prohibitive
actions.
To understand all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secret from them. This is a good as learning from the Lord directly. Otherwise, even the most intelligent persons will be bewildered.
Hare Krishna. So you have heard it all that karma refers to activities done according to Vedic injunction. Such activities are generally referred to as karma kanda, regulations from the Vedic scriptures. Owing to the performance material desires, karma kanda yields reactions, good and bad. Karma kanda activities yield good reactions. So while gradually purifying the actor and gradually elevating the actor, it yields good results. That means ultimately you will arrive. It may take a long time, but if you are following the karma kanda principle, you gradually elevated until you arrive. So these are called karma. Karma means actions according to the karma kanda regulations. But there are activities generally that are completely below the karma kanda actions. These activities are bhikarma. We see the definition also. Okay, bhikarma means activities prohibited in the Vedas. Such prohibited actions produce bad reactions. Karma or activities according to the Vedic regulations produce good reactions, but V-karma activities, there are activities that are even prohibited in the Karma Kanda session. They are below the Karma Kanda session, so they produce only bad reactions, painful reactions. Those activities are called V-karma, the activities of the ignoramus, the general mass of people. Eating, sleeping, eating, and defending. Where is food? Where is money? Where is this? Where is that? Where is that? Those activities without scriptural regulations, they produce only suffering or bad reactions. So those activities are classified as V-karma. Then there are activities that are classified as akama. Akama. Akama refers to work performed for Krishna's pleasure. When the devotees, pure devotees, act for Krishna's pleasure, even though they are acting, they are eating, they are playing drums, they are singing, they are dancing, they are cooking, they are building, they are printing books, they are doing all kinds of actions, but their actions do not produce sinful reactions. Therefore, they are called akama. Akama refers to work performed for Krishna's pleasure. Such work begins and brings no material reactions, good or bad. In his purpose, Srila Prabhupada classifies V-karma and karma together under the category of V-karma. Yes. To understand Krishna consciousness and action according to its modes, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. That is, one has to be learned. One has to know. One has to learn perfectly, but to know every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Supreme Lord. That he must know. That Jivera Swarupa Haya Krishnera Nityadas. He has to learn this first before he can perform activities that will not bring sinful reaction. Before you can perfectly execute activities in Krishna consciousness, you must learn that we are all eternal servitor of the Lord. As much as the hand is part and parcel of the body, we are part and parcel of the Lord. So the duty of the main fundamental duty of the part is to serve the Lord. We must know this. Very, very important. Otherwise, you cannot act on the platform of Otherwise, you cannot act on the platform of Akama. The entire Bhagavad Gita is directed towards this conclusion. Any other conclusion against its consciousness and its attendant actions are V-karmas or prohibited actions. To understand all this, one has to associate with the authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secret from them. This is as good as learning from the Lord directly. Otherwise, even the most intelligent man will be doing that. That's why we need the guidance of the pure devotees. That is why we need the spiritual masters, we need the senior devotees, we need the guidance of the sadhus, the advanced devotees, so that they can teach us the science of engaging everything in Krishna's sense. But Ramachandra, your mic is unmuted. Please mute it. Yes. Thank you. Okay. So this is very, very important. Having introduced the term V-karma, Krishna returns to the discussion between karma and akama. So in verse 18, let's see. Karmani akamaya pasya. Akamani chakamaya. Sabudiman manu siesu. Sayukta Krishna karma creates. Translation. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men and is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So, inaction in action, what does it mean? It refers to devotional service. Inaction in action, what does it mean? As far as you understand, inaction in action, what does it mean? Inaction in action refers to devotional service, okay, or activities performed only for Krishna's pleasure. That is the meaning of inaction in action, okay. Krishna's servants receive no material reactions for their service because they act as Krishna directs, without the contamination of seeking for reward for their work. When one acts for the pleasure of Krishna, it is referred to as inaction in action. Okay? It's acting only for the pleasure of Krishna. So it is practically no work. It's doing no work that brings reaction. So it is inaction in action. That is what it means. Action in inaction is the opposite. Okay? Action in inaction is the opposite of inaction in action. A sannyasi without transcendental knowledge of Krishna may appear not to be performing work, but as a soul, he can't avoid either activity or the entangling result of that activity. Devoid of transcendental knowledge about Krishna, he must act, but he cannot act in Krishna's service. For he has no knowledge. Is thus liable if you renounce falsely with ulterior motive. If your motive for renunciation is different to you, whether you are wearing the clothes as for your self-gratification. For example, the sannyasi is steps on living entities as he works. All these activities have no transcendental basis for him, and thus reactions accrue to it. Because every soul is unavoidably active. Artificial attempts at inactivity lead to further danger. That of unengaged senses, coupled with an impure mind. Anyone who attempts spiritual practice while the mind meditates on sense objects will fall down, even if such an unfortunate renunciation appears to be less involved in worldly activities. So what we are saying is that unless our activities are for Krishna's pleasure, we accrue reaction. That even if somebody dresses, as a sannyasi, but internally he has selfish motives, his activities will still bring reaction. Because even while working, nobody can be free. Everyone, while working, you kill a lot of living entities. When you are cooking, you kill a lot of living entities. When you are grinding your spices, you kill a lot of. So all these will bring reactions. So unless you are a devotee of Krishna, Ramachandra Prabhu, Ramachandra Prabhu, are you there? You should mute. You are not muted.
Okay.
You should mute, please, so that we can go ahead. Thank you. So this is the situation. So in all circumstances, we should become Krishna conscious. But when you say action in inaction, inaction in action, somebody else is still unmuted there. iPhone. Back the iPhone. Back the iPhone, please mute. Back the iPhone, mute. Back the
Babu,
iPhone,
please
mute.
which slogan?
Hey, my God. I said you should mute. I think you're muted, are you? Okay, so that is it. What we are saying is that when you say action in inaction, inaction in action, is like some blah blah oral play. It's like some word game. So people cannot easily understand. But differently said, what that means is that one who sees no reaction in selfless work and reaction in false renunciation is intelligent among men. This is what it means. This particular verse means that one who sees no reaction in selfless work and reaction in false renunciation is intelligent among men. This is what it means. So listen to it very carefully. One who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men and is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. So this refers to the devotees. The devotees are acting for Krishna's pleasure. So their activities, okay. So you can see the screen a little bit. We must follow the liberated souls. Please, little internal summary. We must follow the liberated souls. That it is, this is the ways of religion simply by imperfect experience. Religion can only be laid down by the Lord. Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 3rd chapter, verse 19. No one can manufacture a religious principle by imperfect speculation. One must follow in the footsteps of great authorities like Brahma, Shiva, Na, Prahlad, Bhishma, Sukadeva, Goswami, Yamaraj, Janaka, and Balima. These are the 12 Mahas. They have lived by example, positive examples. So if one cannot ascertain what is religion or self-realization. Therefore, out of constant mercy to his devotees, the Lord explains directly to us. Only actions perform material existence. So this is in the purport. Srila Prabhupada said this in the purport. And this explains everything to me. Then in text 17, we said the intricacies of karma are difficult to understand. What are big karmas or prohibited actions? Okay? To understand Krishna consciousness and actions according to his moves, one has to learn one's relationship with the Supreme. That is, one who has learned perfectly knows very well. He knows every living entity is an eternal servitor of the Lord, and that consequently, one has to act in Krishna consciousness. The entire Bhagavad Gita is directed towards this conclusion. Any other conclusion against this consciousness and its attendant actions are vikamas or prohibited actions. Okay, vikama means prohibited actions. To understand all this, one has to associate with authorities in Krishna consciousness and learn the secret from them. This is as good as learning. Otherwise, it won't be most intelligent. So, if you look on his action in inaction, which one is inaction in action? How do you see them? Do you understand? Hare Krishna? Somebody should talk. When I ask questions, somebody should answer. If you don't answer, that means you are not there with us or you don't understand what we say. The
Praying,
picture,
praying to Tulsi.
the picture of the Buddhist monk, the picture of the monk there that is meditating, is doing action. Or is he appears to not be active, but is active? How do you understand? How do you explain these two pictures? The devotee is offering Tulasi Puja. Is he active? Why is it that the devotee offering Tulasi Puja is considered, his activity is considered to be inaction? Even though he's offering the Tulasi, he's offering the ghee lamp, waving his hand clockwise, ringing the bell, is action, but it is considered inaction. Why?
Because he is doing that action in devotion.
Yes, he's doing that action in devotional service to the Lord. He's doing devotional service. So when you are acting in devotional service, your actions are considered inaction. Why? Because they do not produce reaction. But on the other hand, the meditating monk is meditating. He's not doing anything. None of his body is moving. So he appears to be inactive. He's not doing anything. But in actuality, his mind is doing so many things. His mind is doing so many things, meditating on so many things. But physically is not doing any action. So even though physically is not involved, his mind is involved in so many activities. Therefore, reactions will come. So it's action in inaction, while this one is inaction in action. Akama in karma. Here you can see that Mother Yasoda is moving her hands to feed Krishna, taking the food and feeding Krishna. Is he acting or not acting?
No acting.
He's not acting because he's doing devotional service. Activities in devotional service are considered non-acting. Non-acting because they do not; those activities do not bring reaction. So a Krishna conscious person knows that because he's part and parcel of the Supreme, the part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. When the hand moves, it does not move out of his own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. So it moves automatically in the service of the whole body. So when our actions are directed towards pleasing Krishna, they are considered inaction in action. Now, Krishna further explains this verse in verse 19. Where is verse 19? Krishna further explains this verse in verse 19. Verse 19. Yasya sarve samaramba kama sankalpa varjita jnanagini dagda karmanam tam ahupanditam buddha. One is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every act is devoid of desire for sense gratification, as in the case of the pure devotees. He is said by sages to be a worker whose fruitive action is burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. One is acting as a pure devotee of the Lord because it's in perfect knowledge. So even though he's acting, his actions do not bring sinful reactions. So it's very important. That is where we are expected to arrive. We know where we are expected to arrive, but each and everyone knows where we are. So how to get there? That is the work we need to do now, individually. Purpose. Verse 19, purpose. Somebody should read.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. He said, only a person in full knowledge can understand the activity of a person in Krishna consciousness. Because the person in Krishna consciousness is devoid of all kinds of sense gratificatory propensities. It is to be understood that he has turned up the reaction of his work by perfect knowledge of his constitutional position as the eternal servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is actually learned who has attained to such perfection of knowledge. The development of this knowledge of eternal servitorship to the Lord is compared to fire. Such a fire, once kindled, can burn up all kinds of reactions to work. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. It's very clinical, isn't it? The Prabhupada's purpose is very clinical. Only a devotee can understand the activities of other devotees. Because only devotees know that the activities a devotee does are perfectly done in knowledge that he is part and parcel of Krishna, and therefore a devotee's activities are for the pleasure of Krishna. And if one has that understanding and he acts with that understanding that is part and parcel of Krishna, that knowledge of self-awareness, and relationship with the Supreme Self, actions on that platform, they are like fire. They can burn off all kinds of sinful reactions. That's why a devotee, pure devotee, is always working, reading, preaching, moving about, offering puja, doing kirtan, giving Bhagavatam class, listening to Bhagavatam class. It's always active, but his activities are considered transcendental because they do not attract sinful reactions. It's acting in knowledge. That is where we are all expected to arrive. We are all expected to become pure devotees of the Lord. And that is what Krishna is pointing to Arjuna. That one is understood to be in full knowledge, whose every endeavor is devoid of desire for sense gratification. He is said by the sages to be a worker for whom the reactions of work have been burned up by the fire of perfect knowledge. Okay? That is it. That's the proper comments. Only a person in full knowledge can understand the activities of the person in Krishna consciousness. Because the person in Krishna consciousness is devoid of all kinds of sense gratificatory propensities. It is to be understood that he has bound up the reactions of his work by perfect knowledge of his constitutional position as the eternal center of the Supreme Personality of God. He is actually learned who has attained to such perfection of knowledge. A devotee in transcendental knowledge never desires sense gratification because he knows Krishna as his Lord and Master, and himself as Krishna's servant. He is thus freed from material desires, and his actions are karma, produce no reactions. So this is it. But this is very bewildering for the non-devotees. The non-devotees cannot understand why a devotee's activities cannot bring sinful reactions. The devotee is acting, they are also acting, doing the same thing. But they are being told that devotees' actions do not bring. They can't understand. Only other devotees can understand devotees' actions. It's a bewilderment up to tomorrow. You cannot convince the karmic that you are not attached to the fruit of activities that somebody can just act like that from God. Just doing things as a matter of duty. It's not possible. So they think that these things you are doing the same activity like I'm doing also. And why are you saying that your activities are transcendental? It is because the result is for the pleasure of the Lord. The devotee is not attached to enjoying the fruit of his action. He's acting for God. Therefore, if you get to the temple, you see activities of devotees. Devotees appear to be acting like ordinary people, but their actions are actually for the pleasure of God. And by extension, devotees in their homes who are also acting in Krishna consciousness, their activities are transcendental. Ordinary people cannot understand them. So this should be clearly understood. Okay, verse 20. Tiatwa karma pala sangam nitya tripto nirasraya karmani abhipravitopi naiva kinshit karoti saha. Abandoning all attachment to the results of his activities, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive action, although engaged in all kinds of undertakings. So this is a clarification to the next verse. Why devotees' activities do not bring sinful reactions. Abandoning all attachment to the result of his action, ever satisfied and independent, he performs no fruitive actions, although engaged in all kinds of understanding. This is the great art of working. Somebody should read the purpose.
This freedom from the bondage of actions is possible only in Krishna consciousness. When one is doing everything for Krishna, a Krishna conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And therefore, he has no attraction for the result of the action. He is not even attached to his personal maintenance, for everything is left to Krishna. Nor is he anxious to secure things, nor to protect things already in his possession. He does his duty to the best of his ability and leaves everything to Krishna. Such an unattached person is always free from the resultant reactions of good and bad. It is as though he were not doing anything. This is the sign of akarma, or actions before fruitive reactions. Any other action, therefore, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is binding upon the worker. And that is the real aspect of the karma, as explained herein before. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So you get it clear? Get it clear?
If you can throw some more light. You are our boss.
Oh, it is very clear.
It's clear. It will tell us something. This what Prabhupada is telling us. You should tell us something.
Yes, it is now. I cannot say something more than what Prabhupada said. But he has produced the capsule, he has encapsulated this so nicely that every sentence is a bomb of his own. So to say anything else apart from this is tantamount to speculation. What I want to say is that Prabhupada said that freedom, this freedom from bondage, this freedom from the bondage of action is possible only in Krishna consciousness when one is doing everything for Krishna. That a Krishna conscious person acts out of pure love for the Supreme Personality of God. He just does his duty, and therefore he has no attraction for the results of his action. He's not even attached to his personal maintenance. Yes, for everything is left to Krishna. That is it. He does his work if Krishna approves. Okay, all what he knows is that he does his work. Therefore, he's not attached to not doing any part of work, whether I will offend this, whether I will not offend that person. He just does his work. Nor is he anxious to accrue things, not to protect things already in his possession. Though basic protections are given, but he's not so over anxious, Produce, make all kinds of locks, layers of locks in his house. Lock this one, lock that one, put security gadgets of all kinds. It's very simple. You know that Krishna will protect, so he has a door like every other person. He locks it, and he goes inside, and he sleeps very nicely with his two eyes closed, because he does not act in a way that offends other people. He's friendly to all living entities, and he has learned the science of engaging everything that comes his way in the service of Krishna. So he has no cause for fear of any kind of reaction. So such a life is true freedom. He does his duty to his best of his ability and leaves everything to Krishna. Such an unattached person is always free from the resultant reactions of good and bad. It is as though he were not doing anything. This is the sign of akarma. This is the definition of akarma, or actions without fruitive reactions. Any other action, therefore, devoid of Krishna consciousness, is binding upon the worker. And that is the real aspect of vikama, as explained here. So this one, every sentence is a capsule. One need to just swallow it. There is no need for any further explanation of this. So this is what I'm saying, Prabhu. So that is it. We should go to the next verse, because the next 3 verses are also explaining the same thing, elaborating on the same thing. Nirasi yata shitatma chata parigraha sariram kevalam kama kurbam. Such a man of understanding acts with mind and intelligence perfectly controlled. He gives up all sense of proprietorship over his possessions and acts only for the bare necessities of life. Thus, working is not affected by sinful reactions. More of this will come to in the chapter 5 also. He's acting, but his actions do not bring sinful reactions. That is where we are all expected to arrive. That is the sadhya, that is the goal of every sadhana bhakta. The goal of all practicing devotees is to arrive on this platform of pure devotional service, whereby you act, that your actions do not bring any sinful reaction. Yes. We should not give up work. We should be satisfied by dutiful work. Work as a matter of duty. We should give up attachment to the fruits of work. Okay? We should give up attachment to the fruits of work. This verse describes a sadhaka, that you and me, one endeavoring for perfection. If you know that you are endeavoring for perfection, this verse refers to you. So it's for all of us who are endeavoring for perfection, that this is how we should act if we really want to make progress on the path of pure devotional service. As sadhakas, very, very clearly explained that the perfection of this consciousness, Siddha, is explained in verse 2. This consciousness, or the Siddha. Okay. Verse 21. Okay. But I think we should read the purport of the 20 also.
A Krishna conscious person does not expect good or bad results in his activities. His mind and intelligence are fully controlled. He knows that because he is part and parcel of the Supreme. The part played by him as a part and parcel of the whole is not his own activity, but is only being done through him by the Supreme. When the hand moves, it does not move out of its own accord, but by the endeavor of the whole body. A Krishna conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sense gratification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine, part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance. So a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. He is therefore immune to all the reactions of his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. A cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills the animal in his possession, yet the animal does not protest, nor does it have any real independence. A Krishna conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time to forcefully possess any material objects. For maintaining body and soul, it does not require unfair means of accumulating money. He does not therefore become contaminated by such material sins. He is free from all reactions to his actions. Hare Krishna.
Krishna. So this is beautiful, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
Is it not where we are expected to be? This is where we are all expected to arrive. Nirasi yata chitatma, chiyata sarva parigraha, sariram kevalam kama, kurban noti kilbisam. Very, very beautiful, isn't it? It is very beautiful, yes. As the Prabhupada explained the understanding of a Krishna conscious person. You and me, this is how our understanding should be. This is what the Prabhupada is explaining. Because we are living in the body, even though we have a transcendental philosophy, we are still living in the body, living in the society. We have material obligations to fulfill. Therefore, how do we maintain equilibrium? So it's exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action, better to be contented, to not be greedy. A devotee should not, for the greed for things of this world, do so many horrible things. He should be contented. He should act, according to rules and regulations. He should look for money according to rules and regulations also. He should not go too far into putting his hand into all kinds of things, wanting things, Like an animal, he is therefore immune to all reactions to his endeavors. Like an animal, he has no proprietorship even over his own body. That a cruel proprietor of an animal sometimes kills an animal in his possession. Yet, the animal does not protest. Nor does it have any real impact. A Krishna conscious person fully engaged in self-realization has very little time to forcibly possess any material objects. He sees them as distractions. Unless, of course, he can maintain a balance if proper consciousness and possessing it and using it in preaching activities of the Lord. For maintaining body and soul, it does not require unfair means to accumulating money. It does not therefore become contaminated by such material states. It is free from the reactions to its actions. This verse speaks of a highly advanced, perfected devotee who is constantly greedy for Krishna's service. He considers himself insignificant and gives no importance to anything outside Dasa. His qualities will now be further described. This is where we are really expected to be. Let us see it. Asuni Kumara, this is not where we are expected to be. But we know where we are individually. That individual judgment is left for us and the Lord, between we and the Lord. But individually, we know where we are. We are not here to judge anybody. But individually, we all can judge ourselves. We can insert ourselves into the test tube of these verses, and we know we come out as the product of the other side. We all know our level of consciousness, and that one is between we and the Lord. If you see, look at this machine. All the components are independent, but they are all interdependent. So if you separate a component from this machine, it might be useless. But when it fits in back into its place, its usefulness is glaring because it's working. It is going to move some other object. The movement of one part of one component of the machine also activates other components. So the whole machine works together. This is how it works. If somebody is actually living as a part and parcel of the Lord and acting in that way, the Lord takes care of his maintenance. That's why he promised in the Bhagavad Gita that to those who are exclusively devoted to me, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. I carry what they lack and I preserve what they lack. So the question is for us to become exclusively devoted. That is the challenge. We are called upon to become exclusively devoted to the Lord. Then we'll leave the rest for the Lord and see whether he will not take charge of the maintenance, our maintenance. He will take charge. So that is this. A Krishna conscious person on the screen. A Krishna conscious person is always dovetailed with the supreme desire, for he has no desire for personal sanctification. He moves exactly like a part of a machine. As a machine part requires oiling and cleaning for maintenance, so a Krishna conscious man maintains himself by his work just to remain fit for action in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. That is all. No greedy proposals. No greedy proposal, avaricious moves, You just complicate things for yourself. He is therefore immune to all reactions to his endeavors. Immune to all reactions to his endeavors. Okay, so it's beautiful, so beautiful it is. But more of his qualities are going to be enumerated here. Verse 22. Yadrisha labasantusto dwandwatito vimansara sama sidau asidau cha kritwa pina nibajate. He who is satisfied with gain which comes of his own accord, who is free from duality and does not envy, who is steady both in success and failure, is never entangled although performing actions. Further clarification of this, further elucidation of these devotees' qualities. What makes a devotee truly mystical and magnetic? What makes a devotee to become fully situated in the grace of the Lord? These are the things that endears a devotee to the Lord, that makes his life very, very mystical. The devotee's life is controlled by the Lord. Purpose.
A Krishna conscious person does not make much endeavor even to maintain his body. He is satisfied with gains which are obtained of their own accord. He neither begs nor borrows, but he labors honestly as far as it is in his power, and is satisfied with whatever is obtained by his own honest labor. He is therefore independent in his livelihood. He does not allow anyone's service to hamper his own service in Krishna consciousness. However, for the service of the Lord, he can participate in any kind of action without being disturbed by the duality of the material world. The duality of the material world is felt in terms of heat and cold, or misery and happiness. A Krishna conscious person is above duality because he does not hesitate to act in any way for the satisfaction of Krishna. Therefore, he is steady both in success and in failure. These signs are visible when one is fully in Krishna transcendental service or knowledge. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
So you can get it. You can get it. Clear.
Yeah.
It's clear. The devotee on this platform does not even endeavor to beg for his sustenance. It depends on Krishna, who looks upon such an exalted soul with great affection. Sripad Madhavendra Puri is an example of a devotee of this level. Madhavendra Puri neither worked nor begged for it. He ate only when someone was prompted by Krishna or within to offer him food. Yeah, that is extreme. That is extreme case. Where we are expected to work, but we should limit ourselves, we should not be greedy, we should do our work and leave Krishna to bring us to the result, as he like. So when Madhavendra Puri traveled in Brajadam, he refrained from begging. One day, Krishna saw his faith, affection, and detachment, and personally brought Madhavendra Puri milk. At the same sat at Govinda Kum near Govardhan Hill. The devotional consciousness of such a materially detached, spiritually attached soul is so sweet that it even attracts Krishna. Yes, if we become really detached and purified at heart, we attract Krishna. Krishna is already there as a super soul. So he manifests externally. Krishna can manifest externally. And when you are having such a reciprocation with the Lord in heart, he can direct you from within. You can hear his dictations and directions from within. But you must be free from all kinds of attachments and aversions before you can become so peacefully, transcendentally situated. So this is the beauty of becoming a pure devotee. So we are all expected to arrive there. Krishna is there, waiting to reciprocate accordingly. Endowed with this consciousness, the devotee's mind is freed from the dualities of the material world. All the conditioned soul sees good and bad. He yearns for pleasure and tries to avoid distress. The devotee is above such consideration because he sees Krishna's hand in everything that occurs. The next verse introduces Jagya. The topic will be expanded upon verse 25 to 23. So that is it. This is most beautiful. And we are all expected to arrive there. We are all expected to arrive there eventually. And if you arrive there, as Krishna promised, to those who are exclusively devoted to me, I carry what they lack and I preserve what they have. If we just have strong faith in Krishna's words and you try to put it into practice to challenge you, you will see direct reciprocation. The science was there. The science is there now, and it is still going to be there in the future. So Krishna consciousness is a science that works. You just apply yourself diligently to it, and you will see the results. And that alone should push you to remain a devotee. If you apply yourself to the process of Krishna consciousness and you don't see the desired results, then stop being a devotee. But if you get the results, be honest to yourself, continue to remain a devotee, because to the degree you surrender, to that degree Krishna reciprocates. As you surrender unto him, he rewards you accordingly. So try to increase your degree of surrender. We should endeavor to do this in our daily life, in our interpersonal relationship with people, and in our interactions in the community. So this is practical. Very, very practical. And Krishna introduced will be expanded upon in verse 25 to verse 33. Verse 25 to verse 33. Meanwhile, we are in verse 22. So we're going to 23 now. Verse 23. Gata Sangasya Muktasya Gyanavastita Chetasaha Jagyaya Sharataha Kama Samagram Praviliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the mode of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. Wow! Merges entirely into transcendence. Merges entirely into transcendence. So this is a very beautiful verse. Purpose.
Becoming fully Krishna conscious. One is free from all dualities, and thus is free from the contaminations of the material world. He can become liberated because he knows his constitutional position in relationship with Krishna, and thus his mind cannot be drawn from Krishna consciousness. Consequently, whatever he does for Krishna, who is the Prema Vishnu. Therefore, all his works are technically sacrifices, because sacrifice aims at satisfying the Supreme Person, Krishna. The resultant reactions to all such work certainly merge into transcendence, and one does not suffer material effects. Hare Krishna.
And one does not suffer material effects. All the results of his work merges entirely into transcendence. So, who is that normal person who will not be attracted to such a transcendental life? You become completely mystical and invisible. You know, even nobody can understand you. Your activities become incomprehensible, and you are happy. The source of your happiness is unknown to others. Because for the general mass, for the big army, the source of the happiness is illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, meat eating, insurance, things like that. But the source of your happiness is completely transcendental, is your connection with Krishna. And this is nourishing from within to without. So who is that sober person who will not be attracted to such a practice? So Krishna consciousness is so beautiful. Yes, the Prabhupada translates Jagyaya as for the sake of Jagya, Krishna. our work is automatically situated in transcendence when it is performed as a sacrifice for Krishna's pleasure. If we are acting for Krishna's pleasure, whatever we are doing is already situated in transcendence. It's transcendental. Act for Krishna, for Krishna's pleasure. Krishna will describe a variety of sacrifices in the following verses because these sacrifices have transcendental knowledge. The theme of this chapter as their ultimate goal. Their sacrifices Krishna will introduce, and all those sacrifices, the transcendental knowledge is the ultimate goal of those sacrifices. So it is very much in place. We should not underestimate the importance of acquiring transcendental knowledge. Knowledge about Krishna, the Jivatma, the material world, and the process of devotional service solidifies our devotional practices. This knowledge solidifies our devotional practices. And sometimes people used to ask, why are you emphasizing so much of systematic study, cultivating Krishna consciousness? Say, if you know what you are doing and you know well what you are doing, you will know how best to do it. Then you will get the best results. If you are scrutinizing these books, studying these books as one of devotees, listening to Srila Prabhupada as a pure devotee, studying his purpose, associating our mind, dull mind, with Srila Prabhupada's pure purpose, definitely it will solidify our understanding and situate us more. It will help us develop the impetus to go deeper in our devotional service. It will propel us to a higher level of devotional service. It will help to intensify our taste in devotional service. So every devotee should know the value, the importance of studying these scriptures, or the importance of transcendental knowledge. Yes, we should not underestimate the importance of acquiring transcendental knowledge. Knowledge about Krishna, the Jivatma, the material world, and the process of devotional service solidifies our devotional practices. The devotional kripa greatly expands in the Goloka Vrindavan planet, and there it produces the fruit of love of Krishna. Although remaining in the material world, the gardener regularly sprinkles the kripa with the water of hearing and chanting. The Prabhupada writes in this purport, the verse. Every living entity is wandering within the universe in different species and on different planetary systems according to its fruitive activities. Out of many millions of living entities, one may be fortunate enough to receive the seed of Bhakti or Bhakti ladder, the kripa of devotional service. By the grace of the spiritual master and Krishna, one nourishes the Bhakti ladder by regularly sprinkling it with the water of Shravana Caitanya, hearing and chanting. In this way, the seed of Bhakti ladder sprouts and grows up and up and up through the whole universe until it penetrates the covering of the material universe and reaches the spiritual world. The Bhakti ladder continues to grow until it reaches the topmost planetary system, Goloka Vrindavan, where Krishna lives. There, the Kripa takes shelter of the Lord, and that is his final destination. At that time, the Kripa begins to grow the fruits of ecstatic love of God. It is the duty of the devotee who nourishes the Kripa to be very careful. It is said that the watering of the Kripa must continue. It is not that at a certain stage one can stop chanting and hearing, and become a mature devotee. No. At every stage, we should chant and hear. The moment you stop chanting and hearing, you have stopped watering your transcendental kripa of devotion. You have stopped watering the plants. And it can die, yes, because other weeds are also competing with the plants. So your duty is to constantly water it. And while watering it, you are removing the weeds. That is how to allow a plant to grow. You constantly water it, and the watering process is regular hearing and chanting. So devotees to be strong in their sadhana, regular hearing and chanting. No compromise, regular hearing and chanting. Then consciously avoid offenses, which are the weeds that are competing with the plant, the creator. That must be consciously done. Okay? It is not that at a certain age one can stop chanting and hearing and become a mature devotee. No. If one stops, one certainly fall down from devotional service. Although one may be very exalted in devotional service, it should not give up the watering process of Shavana. If one gives up that process, it is due to an offense. Cultivating Krishna conscious knowledge is therefore essential. Only then can knowledge and work be combined, so that one's work becomes a sacrifice to Krishna. Only then can work and knowledge be combined, so that one's work becomes a sacrifice to Krishna. Krishna summarizes his teachings of Akama by next describing the absolute quality of a sacrifice performed in spiritual consciousness. So, verse 24, Brahma Arpanam, Brahma Havi, Brahma Gno, Brahmana Hutam, Brahma Iva Tena Gandhavyam, Brahma Kama Samadhina. A person who is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness is sure to attain the spiritual kingdom because of his full contribution to spiritual activities, in which the consummation is absolute and that which is offered is of the same spiritual nature. Purport.
How activities, Hare Krishna. How activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. You say how activities in Krishna consciousness can lead one ultimately to the spiritual goal is described here. There are various activities in Krishna consciousness, and all of them will be described in the following verses. But for the present, just the principle of Krishna consciousness is described. A conditioned soul entangled in material contamination is sure to act in the material atmosphere. And yet, he has to get out of such an environment. The process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk product is cured by another milk product, namely curds. The materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness as set forth here in the Gita. This process is generally known as yajna, or activities, sacrifices, simply meant for satisfaction of Vishnu or Krishna. The more the activities of the material world are performed in Krishna consciousness or for Vishnu only, the more the atmosphere becomes spiritualized by complete absorption. The word Brahma means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental body are called Brahma Jyoti. His spiritual effulgence, everything that exists is situated in that Brahma Jyoti. But when the Jyoti is covered by illusion, that's Maya, or sense gratification, it is materia, or it is called materia. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. That's the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness. The consuming agent of such an offering or contribution. The process of consumption, the contributor, and the result are all combined together. Brahman, or the absolute truth. The absolute truth covered by Maya is called matter. Matter dovetailed by the cause of the absolute truth regains its spiritual quality. Krishna consciousness is the process of converting the illusory consciousness into Brahman, or the supreme. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called yajna, or sacrifice for the absolute. In that condition of spiritual consciousness, the contributor, the contribution, the consumption, the performer or leader of the performance, and the result or ultimate gain, everything becomes one in the absolute, the supreme Brahman. That is the method of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Who can describe this method of Krishna consciousness more than what Prabhupada has said? Eh? Yeah? So the Prabhupada is very articulate. So, it's very, very articulate. His sentences are condensed. They are condensed, they're like condensed milk. The essential, they refine the milk until all the essence is brought together to form condensed milk. This is what the Prabhupada has done. So each of his sentences is a bomb, fully loaded capsule. You see? So you can see the personal reflections, they are powerful meditations, and the way the sentences are put together in a string. This is beautiful, isn't it? All glories to Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So that is it. He has defined the whole process of Krishna consciousness in this, the process of sacrifice, what Jagya means, what Jagya actually means. And if we are doing Jagya, then we are covered. Everything is consumed in the fire of transcendence. All our activities will be consumed in the fire of transcendence. Meaning, even though we are working, there will be no sinful reaction. But how to be able to do that, that personal application is the gap. You and me, we have to apply ourselves to the process of Krishna consciousness so that we can get the ultimate benefit. This is the purpose of this verse. Now, work done in transcendental knowledge and performed as a sacrifice is, along with its results, absolute. Because all work done for Krishna's pleasure produces no karma and is therefore transcendental. All work done for Krishna consciousness or Krishna pleasure is transcendental. I will thank you. Srila Prabhupada explains the sacrifices that will now be described. The word Brahma means spiritual. The Lord is spiritual, and the rays of his transcendental are called Brahma Jyoti. Is spiritual and for Jyoti. But when the Jyoti is it is called material. This material veil can be removed at once by Krishna consciousness. Thus, the offering for the sake of Krishna consciousness, the consuming agent of such an offering or contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, and the results are all combined together, Brahma, or the absolute truth. When the mind is fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness, it is said to be in samadhi or trance. Anything done in such transcendental consciousness is called jagya or sacrifice for the absolute. The contribution, the process of consumption, the contributor, the results are all necessary aspects of any sacrifice. So the ultimate goal of all the sacrifices that Krishna will now list is the pleasure of the absolute truth. They all advance a particular or they all advance a practitioner in transcendental knowledge. In the next 9 verses, verses 25 to 33, Krishna will explain to Arjuna that transcendental knowledge, ultimately about Krishna, is to be obtained through these sacrifices and austerities, all of which are typical of Vedic culture. So there are a series of sacrifices that will be described in the next verses from 25 to 33, in the next 8 verses or 9 verses. So a series of sacrifice. And by the time we come to that, that will be the end of today's session. And we will not waste too much time because they are there. We can go and study them more again. And let's go into that now. Verse 25. Devam eva pare jagya yogina pariyupa sate brahmangyau apare jagyam yagyanai popaju pati. See, the brahmacharis have their austerities, their sacrifices. The grastas have their sacrifices. The vanaprastha, the sannyasis. Everything is combined. Everybody, the yogis have their sacrifices. So how to offer everything for the pleasure of let's constitute these next 9 verses. Translation. Some yogis perfectly worship the demigods by offering different sacrifices to them. And some of them offer sacrifices in the fire of the Supreme Brahma. So, Krishna will later explain that only those who are less intelligent or independently able to supply needs. So later Krishna will explain that the demigods who offer benedictions to people, they are not independent, they are also dependent on the Lord. But the less intelligent class of men worship them as the ultimate. So that what makes them less intelligent because they consider them the ultimate. Demigods are empowered by Krishna to fulfill the worshipper's desires. Demigod worship will be discussed in more detail in chapters 7 and 9. Yes, we can worship the demigods properly by understanding them as agents of Vishnu. Understand? We worship them as agents of Vishnu. People who are as representatives, not as the ultimate. So that is the approach has to be refined. Otherwise, they are universal administrators on behalf of Krishna. So their positions should be clearly understood. They are not the ultimate themselves. They are representatives of the ultimate. So you can relate to them as agents. You respect them as much as you respect somebody who is representing an important personality. But there is still a difference between that person and the person is representing. So in that wise, we will see it is actually less intelligent class of that worship demigods as the supreme. So we can worship the demigods properly by understanding them as agents of Vishnu. Maharaj Bharat, as described in Bhagavatam 5:7 provides a proper example of demigod worship. He worshipped the demigods, considering them as parts of the universal body of the Lord, not for material rewards, but to please of Vishnu. Next, Krishna explains sacrifices according to one's position in Varnashram. Before we go, the shot on the screen is contained in the purport of verse 24. That the process by which the conditioned soul can get out of the material atmosphere is Krishna consciousness. For example, a patient who is suffering from a disorder of the bowels due to overindulgence in milk products is cured by another milk product, namely curd. The materially absorbed conditioned soul can be cured by Krishna consciousness as set forth here in Gita. This process is generally known as jagya, or activities or sacrifices simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu. That is the meaning of jagya. Jagya means activities that are simply meant for the satisfaction of Vishnu. And that is what brought us to this point, that this last part, sacrifice, lead to transcendental knowledge. And the various sacrifices are described. We just describe the sacrifice of those who worship the demigods. But the next verse from 26 to 33, the sacrifices according to the Vanashram, according to the ashram you belong, according to the Vana you belong, those sacrifices will be described. So, verse 26. Verse 26. Samya Magni Sujubati Sabdadin Visayan Jubati. Some of them sacrifice the hearing process and the senses in the fire of the controlled mind, and others sacrifice the objects of the senses, such as sound, in the fire of sacrifice. So, verse 26, purport first. Purport. It's the purpose purport. Very important. Let's read it. Verse 26, purport.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
The members,
are you there?
the members of the
Bandu. Okay, read. So,
the members of the four divisions of human life, namely the brahmachari, the grihasta, the vanaprastha, and the sannyasi, are all means to become perfect yogis or transcendentalists. Since human life is not meant for our enjoying sense gratification like the animals, the four orders of human life are so arranged that one may become perfect in spiritual life. The brahmachari, or student under the care of a bona fide spiritual master, control the mind by abstaining from sense gratification. A brahmachari hears only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding. And therefore, the pure brahmachari engages fully in hira namanu kirtanam, chanting and hearing. Yeah, Hare namanu kirtanam. Chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibration of material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Similarly, the householders who have some license for sense gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, and meat eating are generally tendencies of human society. But a regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other sense gratification. Marriage on the principle of religious life is therefore current in all civilized human society, because that is the way for a restricted life, a sex life. This restricted, unattached sex life is also a kind of yajna, because the restricted householder sacrifices his general tendencies towards sense gratification for higher transcendental life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
So
Krishna.
you got that? that the brahmachari's mind is controlled when he engages it solely in hearing about Krishna. That the grihastha performs his sacrifices by restricting sex according to Sastri injunctions. Okay. Then the next verse discusses Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. The sacrifice for austerities for brahmacharis, austerities for grihasthas were discussed in verse 26. Verse 27 discusses Ashtanga Yoga. That Sarvanindriya Karmani Prana Karmani Shapare Atma Samyamya Yogagnu Juvati Jnana Dipite. Those who are interested in self-realization in terms of mind and sense control offer the functions of all the senses as well as the vital force breath as oblations into the fire of controlled mind. So that is it. What?
The yoga system conceived by Patanjali is referred to herein. In the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the soul is called Pratyag Atma and Parag Atma. As long as the soul is attached to sense enjoyment, it is called Parag Atma. But as soon as the same soul becomes detached from such sense enjoyment, it is called Pratyag Atma. The soul is subjected to the functions of 10 kinds of air at work within the body. And this is perceived through the breathing system. The Patanjali system of yoga instructs one on how to control the functions of the body's air in a technical manner so that ultimately all the functions of the air within can become favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. According to this yoga system, Pratyag Atma is the ultimate goal. This Pratyag Atma is withdrawn from activities in matter. The sense interacts with the sense objects, like the ear for hearing, eye for seeing, nose for smelling, tongue for tasting, and hand for touching. And all of them are thus engaged in activity outside the self. They are called the functions of the Prana Vayu. Prana Vayu. The Apana Vayu goes downward. Avyana Vayu acts to shrink and expand. Samana Vayu adjusts equilibrium. Udana Vayu goes upward. And when one is enlightened, one engages all this in searching for self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So this is Patanjali Yoga System, analytical study of the body. And there it said there are these kinds of air, 10 kinds of air that circulate within the body to maintain equilibrium. And these 10 kinds of air, the analytical study of how they work and how to do them, that constitutes Patanjali Yoga. But the goal of Patanjali Yoga is self-realization. It's a breathing process, controlling the breath, sitting in a particular posture, harmonizing the movement of the ingoing and outgoing breath within the body. And that kind of process is not practicable in Kali Yuga now. Because in Kali Yuga, people are so distracted that you cannot sit in one place for long. People are restless. So the practical yoga recommended for people in Kali Yuga is Hari Nama Anukirita Ana. That is it. The only way means to become fearless and free from all mysteries is Hari Nama Anukita for this age. So that is the beauty of Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is there to give us the essence of all these yoga practices. And if we take to Krishna consciousness, the activities of Krishna consciousness, these yoga practices are already done automatically. So let us focus on practicing Krishna consciousness and doing it well. That is all. If we do it automatically, we are there. What the Patanjali Yogi will achieve after rigorous austerities, breathing exercises is automatically attained by the process of Bhakti Yoga. All glories of Bhakti Yoga. So we should try to practice this simple, powerful package of Bhakti Yoga presented to us by the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and thus become peaceful. Okay. So in the body circulate 10 kinds of air, 5 major and 5 minor. Controlling them controls the mind, which is the point of this verse. Mind control. Then engaging the controlled mind in the service of the super self. Krishna will speak about Ashtanga Yoga in detail in chapter 6, verse 28. Okay? Krishna will speak about Ashtanga Yoga in chapter 6. We are going to come to that. But in verse 28, there are 4 kinds of jagya that are 4 more types of jagya that are mentioned. And let us go to them. 28. Dravya jagya, stapo jagya, swadhyaya jnana jagya cha, yataya samsita vrataha. There are others who, enlightened by sacrificing their material possessions in severe austerities, take strict vows and practice the yoga of eightfold mysticism, and others study the Vedas for the advancement of transcendental knowledge. Swadhyaya Jagya. Okay, pop-ups.
These sacrifices may be fitted into various divisions. There are persons who are sacrificing their possessions in the form of various kinds of charities. In India, the rich mercantile community or princely orders open various kinds of charitable institutions like Dharma Sala, Anna Kshetra, Atiti Sala, Anata Leya, and Vidya Pita. In other countries, too, there are many hospitals, old age homes, and similar charitable foundations meant for distributing food, education, and medical treatment free to the poor. All these charitable activities are called Dravya Maya Yajya. There are others who, for higher elevation in life or for promotion to higher planets within the universe, voluntarily accept many kinds of austerities, such as Chandrayana and Chaturmasya. These processes entail severe vow for conducting life under certain rigid rules. For example, under the Chaturmasya vow, the candidate does not shave for 4 months during the year, July to October. He does not eat certain foods, does not eat twice in a day, or does not leave home. Such a sacrifice of the comfort of life is called Tapomaya Yajya. There are still others who engage themselves in different kinds of mystic yogas like the Patanjali system, for merging into the existence of the absolute, or Hatha yoga, or Astanga yoga for particular perfections. And some travel to the sanctified places of pilgrimage. All these practices are called yoga yajna, sacrifice for a certain type of perfection in the material world. There are others who engage themselves in the studies of different Vedic literatures, specifically the Upanishad and Vedanta Sutra, or the Sankhya philosophy. All of these are called Swadhyaya Yajna, or engagement in sacrifice. Swadhyaya Yajna, or engage in the sacrifice of studies. All these yogis are faithfully engaged in different types of sacrifice and are seeking a higher status of life. Krishna consciousness, however, is different from this because it is direct service of the Supreme Lord. Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of the above mentioned types of sacrifice, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is transcendental. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. You see the conclusion? All those jagyas are there, but they are not meant for us. We don't have the stability, the peace of mind, the serenity to do them anymore. But luckily for us, we are given a process where all the result of all those jagyas are achieved automatically if we participate. And it is a joyful process for that matter. Singing, dancing, taking prasadam, speaking philosophy, hearing Bhagavata. What a beautiful package. But if you have to go into that, you will know how you go into the forest and do some austerity until you become dry. So many, it is not for preachers. This is a preaching movement. So the packaging is so sweet that just by engaging in it, you are a yogi. You are a yogi in the city, a city yogi. You are a city yogi. You become purified and advanced just by taking part in this beautiful package. So we are owing so much to Srila Prabhupada for packaging this kind of essential program in a way that everyone, irrespective of your background, your creed or color, can participate in it and get that ultimate goal, which is the goal of yoga, joyfully. So this is very beautiful. That all these sacrifices elevate the participants. Yet pure Krishna consciousness is far above these jargons. As the Prabhupada reminds us, Krishna consciousness cannot be attained by any one of these above mentioned types of sacrifices, but can be attained only by the mercy of the Lord and his bona fide devotees. Still, these jagyas provide the gradual upliftment and can be stepping stones to the devotional service. Okay? They can be stepping stones for devotional service for those who want to take the trouble to practice them. But just by the mercy of the pure devotees and Krishna through this chain of parampara, we are given opportunity to participate in the ultimate activity. So for they are not for devotees. These jagyas recommended there, they are not for devotees. But Krishna was so beautiful that by simply doing it under the guidance of the pure devotee, you can arrive, can get the same desired result. So let us focus on this easy and sweet process of Krishna consciousness, okay? That is my advice. Then the following verse again speaks of Pranayama, yogic breath control, a part of the Astanga yoga system. Verse 29. Apaneju bati pranam prane panam tata pare pana panagati rudwa pranayama parayana apareni yatara pranam prane sujubati. And there are even others who are inclined to the process of breath restraint to remain in trance, and they practice stopping the movement of the outgoing breath into the incoming and incoming breath into the outgoing, and thus at last remain in trance, stopping all breathing. Some of them, continuing the eating process, offer the outgoing breath into itself as a sacrifice. Read the purport, see.
This system of yoga for controlling the breathing process is called Pranayama. In the beginning, it is practiced in the Hatha yoga system through different sitting postures. All of these processes are recommended for controlling the senses and for advancement in spiritual realization. This practice involves controlling the air within the body. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yes, no need to go into the details. Later we can go into the details. Yes. But the whole idea is that all those processes are there, but they are to help you come to the platform of, controlling the senses and engaging those control senses in spiritual advancement. That is the purpose of all those. They were practiced in previous times. They are still working, but they have become too rigorous, difficult for people in the age of Kali, because in the age of Kali, people are Manda, Sumanda, Matayo. People are not steady. Their minds are always disturbed. They cannot stay in one place for long. To even chant 1 and 10, the mind is fighting. So these processes of yoga are not meant for this age. But if one can practice it despite that, then it can help somebody to advance, okay, and ultimately come to the platform of engaging in Krishna consciousness. The purpose of all those self-control is to become engaged in Krishna conscious activities. But we're already having that. That a Krishna conscious person, however, being always situated in the transcendental level, automatically, the process of sense control in Krishna consciousness is different. Just engage the senses in devotional service. His senses being always engaged in the service of Krishna have no chance of becoming otherwise engaged. So at the end of life, he is naturally transferred to the transcendental planet of Krishna. Consequently, he makes no attempt to increase his longevity. He is at once raised to the platform of Krishna. The Krishna conscious person begins from transcendental stage and is constantly in that consciousness. Therefore, there is no falling down, and ultimately he enters into the abode of the Lord without delay. The practice of reduced eating is automatically done when one eats only Krishna conscious prasad, or food which is offered first to Krishna. Reducing the eating process is very helpful in the matter of sense control. And without sense control, there is no possibility of getting out of material entanglement. So let us hold on to the Krishna consciousness process, and we are secured. Okay? Then, verse 30. Sarvya piyate jagya pino jagya sapita kalmasaha jagya sistamrita bhujo yanti brahma sanatanam. All these performance, who know the meaning of sacrifice, become cleansed of sinful reactions, and having tasted the nectar of the result of sacrifices, they advance toward the supreme eternal atmosphere. In his purpose, La Prabhupada explained that sacrifices are meant to award sense control and to free the performer from sinful reaction. So, which is automatically attained in the practice of Krishna consciousness. Okay, so 31. Nayam loko asti ajagyasya Kuto Anya Kuru Sadama. Oh, best of the Kuru dynasty. Without sacrifice, one can never live happily in this planet or in the next life or in this life. What to talk of the next? Oh, best of the Kuru dynasty. Without sacrifice, one can never live happily on this planet or in this life. What to talk of the next? Okay, so 32. Okay, towards the end of the purport, there said, a life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all problems of material existence. That is the last sentence in the purport of verse 31. And that is the conclusion. Because everything at all is to help you attain sense control and to be able to promote your consciousness to Krishna consciousness. A life of Krishna consciousness is therefore the solution to all problems of material existence. A life of Krishna consciousness. Okay. So that is it. Therefore, it's a series of a set of sacrifices being defined. But the conclusion is that of all of them, despite the fact they are there, the ultimate point is to come to the point of Krishna consciousness. The importance of Krishna consciousness is what is being emphasized there in all these verses. So let's just read the 32 and 33 and we'll stop there. Evam Bahu Vida Jagya Vichata Brahmano Muke Karmajan Viditan Sarvam Evam Gyatva Vimokshase. All these different types of sacrifice are approved by the Vedas, and all of them are born of different types of work. Knowing them as such, you will become liberated. This purport is short, so you can read this purport. Short purport, you can read it.
Different types of sacrifices are discussed above, are mentioned in the Vedas to see the different types of worker. Because men are so deeply absorbed in bodily concepts. These sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord within hearing. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own mouth. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada explains different, yes, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explains different types of sacrifices are discussed above are mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of workers. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concepts, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with the intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord herewith from his own mouth. One's position in the mode of material nature dictates his tendency and ability to perform sacrifice. One person influenced by the mode of material nature and his impressions from previous lives chooses to perform the sacrifices of breath control. Another person sacrifices through jagya, yet another sacrifices material wealth. Superficially, these sacrifices appear different. Although born of varieties of consciousness, they lead to the same goal. That goal, what is that goal? Transcendental knowledge. What is that goal? That goal, transcendental knowledge. And what does it bring? It brings freedom from material life. So human life is meant for advancing in spiritual life, and the process of advancing is sacrifice. A man works and achieves results as the fruit of his work, and offer at least some of those results in sacrifice to Vishnu. One who makes no offering, money, ability, intelligence, mind, or body simply lives selfishly in vain, for he has not advanced towards the supreme objective. Modern man attempts to find happiness without performing sacrifice. His sense enjoyment may increase, but happiness eludes him. Being devoid of transcendental knowledge and condemned as a thief by the law of karma, he also suffers in his next life. The next test establishes transcendental knowledge as the destination or as the desired result of performing sacrifice. We're going to stop there. Verse 33. Sreyam dravya maya jagya jnana jagya parandapa sarvam karma kilam parta jnane parisamatiyate. O chastiser of the enemy, the sacrifice of knowledge is greater than the sacrifice of material possessions. O son of Preta, after all, the sacrifice of work culminates in transcendental knowledge. The end of all sacrifice in this way is transcendental knowledge. So, and that is the title of this chapter. So, we may perform a karma kanda sacrifice and give up limited amounts of sense gratification so that we can increase it later tenfold. This is a sacrifice performed within the material realm. Such a sacrifice is performed with meager knowledge of the difference between the body and the soul, and with no factual knowledge of Krishna's position. Thus, that sacrifice is inferior to the sacrifice performed in knowledge. Sacrifice performed in knowledge lead one to higher planets and platforms of transcendental knowledge. Concluding his discussion of sacrifices, Krishna now begins the summary of transcendental knowledge by again describing how it may be directly attained. So, the value of transcendental knowledge and how it can directly be attained. That constitutes the next session, verse 33 to 40. How to transmute that knowledge into its realized equivalent. All is contained between 34 and 43 and 43. So thank you very much. We shall deal with that. But before that, let me show the summary of
You are saying what?
I am saying that before we conclude, we have already concluded that this is just a capsule of this set of verses. That, that verse 425 dealt with demigod worship and also sacrifices into Brahma. Then verse 426, the hearing process and senses in the fire of mental control. And also the same 26, objects of senses in the fire of the senses. Then verse 27 talk about Astanga Yoga. Verse 28 talks about charity, how different kinds of people do all kinds of charity, and that is Jagya for them. Then 28 talks about austerity also. Then it talks about Yoga Jagya, then study of the scriptures, Swadhyaya Jagya. Then verse 29 talk about Hatha Yoga and Pranayama. This is how it is summarized. Then, what are sacrifices for a brahmachari? We are concluding. The brahmachari or students under the care of a bona fide spiritual master control the mind by ascending for sense gratification. A brahmachari is here only words concerning Krishna consciousness. Hearing is the basic principle for understanding, and therefore the pure brahmacharis engages fully in Harinama Anuketana, chanting and hearing the glories of the Lord. He restrains himself from the vibrations of material sounds, and his hearing is engaged in the transcendental sound vibration of Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. What are the sacrifices for Grihastha? Similarly, the householders who have some license for self gratification perform such acts with great restraint. Sex life, intoxication, and meat eating are general tendency for human society, but the regulated householder does not indulge in unrestricted sex life and other self gratification. Marriage on the principles of religious life is therefore correct in all civilized human society, because that is the way of restricted sex life. This restricted unattached sex life is also a kind of jagya, because the restricted householder sacrifices a general tendency towards self gratification for higher transcendental life. Then 27, Patanjali system. The Patanjali system of yoga instructs one on how to control the functions of the body here and in a technical manner, so that ultimately all the functions of the air within the body becomes favorable for purifying the soul of material attachment. 29. Practice of reduced eating. The practice of reduced eating is automatically done when one eats only Krishna Prasada or food which is offered first to the Lord. Reducing the eating process is very helpful in the matter of sense control. And without sense control, there is no possibility of getting out of the material entanglement. The purpose of all sacrifices. Self gratification is the root cause of all material existence. Therefore, unless and until one is situated on the platform apart from self gratification, there is no chance of being elevated to the eternal platform of full knowledge, full bliss, and full life. This platform is in the eternal atmosphere of Brahman atmosphere. All the above mentioned sacrifices help one become cleansed of all sinful reactions of material existence. By his advancement in life, not only does one become happy, opulent in this life, but also at the end, he enters into the eternal kingdom of God, either merging into the impersonal Brahma or associating with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So, 31. Sacrifice is essential. That ignorance is the cause of bondage, or is the cause of sinful life, and sinful life is the cause of one's dragging on in material existence. Human form of life is the only loophole by which one may get out of this entanglement. The Vedas therefore give us a chance for escape by pointing out the paths of religion, economic development, and regulated self-gratification, and at last, the means to getting out of the miserable condition entirely. So, like this, how to achieve the highest kind of happiness? Sacrifice is essential. Why varieties of sacrifices are recommended? Different types of sacrifices are described above and mentioned in the Vedas to suit the different types of workers. Because men are so deeply absorbed in the bodily concept, these sacrifices are so arranged that one can work either with the body, with the mind, or with intelligence. But all of them are recommended for ultimately bringing about liberation from the body. This is confirmed by the Lord here is with his own mouth. And 33. Perform sacrifice with knowledge of the goal. That when one's faith reaches the stage of transcendental knowledge, the performer of sacrifice will be considered more advanced than those who simply sacrifice material possessions without such knowledge. For without knowledge, or without attainment of knowledge, sacrifices remain on the material platform, but so no spiritual benefits. Real knowledge culminates in Krishna consciousness, the highest stage of transcendental knowledge. Without the elevation of knowledge, sacrifices are simply material activities. When, however, they are elevated to the level of transcendental knowledge, all such activities enter onto the spiritual platform. Depending on differences in consciousness, sacrificial activities are sometimes called karma kanda, activities, and sometimes called jnana kanda, knowledge in pursuit of the truth. It is better when the end is knowledge. So, in conclusion, let me remind you that karma and jnana, they are not two different parts, but they are two levels. There are different levels on the same path. Karma and jnana are not two different parts, but they are different levels. There are two different levels on the same path. So, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. We'll see you next week. We recognize your presence, and we appreciate you for the sacrifice. Even those whose faces are still hidden, we still recognize their presence. But we also recognize the absence of those who are not here. Yes, we recognize your presence, and we recognize the absence of those who are not here. All those that are not here, they have considered some other programs as more important than this program. That's why they are not here. And that is exactly why I try to cover up as much as possible, so that when they come back, they know that something is missed also. So just that is very important. Let them go enjoy what is important to them on Christmas Day. On Christmas Day, transcendentalists are enjoying on Christmas Day, while we are also enjoying our own transcendental feast on this platform. So they can never cover up. We can equate what we gain and what they gain, and they will see the difference. By the time they come, we are just concluding the chapter. A whole chapter is missed for pursuit of Christian celebration of Christmas. It is very, very pitiable and appalling, and it reveals and exposes our lack of sincerity and in-depth understanding of what we are doing. No practical understanding of what we are doing. If you are to engage yourself in celebrations like this, what do you gain? All those who are celebrating, what do they know about pleasing the pure devotee? Are they performing austerities? They indulge in all kinds of self-gratification. A lot of animals die there, and you are sitting there, watching them kill animals and eating animals all around you, and you are sitting in their midst in the name of social need or demand. You are sitting in the midst of people who are eating flesh all around you. You are inhaling that atmosphere, and you are appreciating what they are doing. That's why you identify with them in the first place. That's why you both prefer to leave the association of vice navas to go and sit in their midst. So it reflects our level of consciousness, even as devotees. Devotees are also on different levels of consciousness. So thank you very much for your sacrifice. May Krishna bless you very beautifully, abundantly, endow you with realized knowledge that will propel you beyond the immediate common man. May Krishna separate you from all those whose knowledge is only theoretical. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Hare
very
Krishna,
much.
Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai. His great Caitanya Prema Prabhu ki.
All glory to all the Vaishnavas ki. We love you so much. We appreciate you so much.